Tokyo, Japan, a place with a super rich and deep history within the bicycle industry. From Fuji bikes to Shimano and even newer brands like Nitto and Magic Components, Japan is the epicenter for the bike industry. There are so many cool and unique bikes and bike shops here in Japan, but today we will be talking to the owner of one of the coolest and potentially the smallest bike shops in the world. Just on the east side of Tokyo, in a historic sumo wrestling district known as Sumo Town, you will find JD Cycle Tech.
Dion James. I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona. I've been living here in Japan for about 7 years, and I run a shop called JD Cycle Tech. I feel it's like MTV Cribs, back in the day. Yeah. But yeah, this is my jig here. Um, Basically, I'll lay the frame down here. The head tube goes here, bottom bracket here. Right now, I have my fork jig in here, but basically I'll put the fork in here, and then you can tell if it's squared. You square it out here, and then here. So if this is whacked out, then if your fork crown is straight, the wheel would be turned like that. And then also from this table here to the center is 100 millimeters. So you can measure if the fork is centered, because this is the center here is 100 millimeters, and then you can see how off the fork is by measuring from here, because this is 100 the center, and then 150, and then 50, stuff like that. This is my NC. I don't use this as much anymore, because it's so much cheaper now to have things made in China, even if it's like a single product. And they'll do all the anodizing and certain finishes that you want, they'll do that. But I have it still if I need to do some custom work. I mean, I probably haven't used it in like in this past year. I haven't used it, but yeah. But it's always good to have it. See, you don't need like a lathe or mill to build frames, but it makes it so much easier. Like if certain things, like if you want to like ream your head tube, like I have um certain tools that I'll put on. Here it is. Like here, I'll put this here, and then you can do like I mean, you can make this if you have a lathe. You can make your own jigs and tools. So you just make this out of a you know a piece of stock, and then you can add your tool on the end there. And for example, instead of like physically having a tool and physically do it by your hand, you let the machine do it. um, I gotta add the stock. This is not the right stock, but you basically put this on that side, and then you can close it in and then bring the head tube like that. Very unique. I mean, I don't see a lot of frame builders do that, but um, if you're building a lot of frames, it just physically makes it easier to have tools. I know some people that cut their tubes on the lathe. They'll have their tube set up here and then have the tooth right here, and move the lathe like that and cut their tubes here. But I use my mill for that. But yeah, this is my mill, and then my vertical drill press. Every shop needs that. My mill here. This is um, kind of messy now, but I'll either put like a steel saw there, and then split my tubes there, or do some stuff with that. But yeah, I cut all my tubes on my vertical mill, so I'll bottom bracket size, head tube size, you know, normal size, OS size. I first started off kind of like it was in college, or I needed a bike, and I went to like a local kind of like a bike share. You volunteer for like a couple hours, and then you can get a free frame or free bike, and then they also let you use the tools in the shop. Um, but basically, I found like a base like a Schwinn kind of road bike, and I converted that to fixed gear, and it just kind of started from there. So frame building kind of started off. So basically, I moved when I moved to Japan. I kind of worked at a used bike shop, and when when I was working at that used bike shop, basically my knowledge was like, okay, track bikes are cool, and I knew some brands and stuff like that. And working at that used bike shop, there was a customer that came in, and he had this like really cool kind of like candy red with like gold flakes in it, and it was just a sick track bike. And I was like, yo, what bike is this? And it had gold in kanji, it had like gold letters on it, and I'm like, dude, this is sick. And he's like, yeah, this is a Kading, it's an NJS bike, track frame. And I'm like, yo, this is awesome. I'm like, where'd you get it? And he's like, it's order made, and I'm like, what? There's people that do that? Like, you can get an order made bike? He's like, yeah, I'll take you to a place. It's not too far. So he took me out there, and I get into this shop. It's like, I'm telling you, it's like this shop has like 40 years of history, and the building's all old. And I get in, and there's like the 70-year-old guy, a 60-year-old guy, and they're just like, they're sitting, working on the machines here and building frames. I'm like, oh, this is what I want to do, because my knowledge is just like, be a mechanic, it'd be cool if I'll be able to build wheels. And then, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is on another level. Like, I gotta figure out to like work at this place. But when I first decided to move to Japan, the dream was like to find, it wasn't really necessary like a bike shop, but just kind of find a mentor or something to kind of learn from. And it's kind of like that cliche, kind of like mentor, apprentice, like like that wax on, wax off kind of thing that I had in my mind of coming here. And it was like not really necessary frame building, but just something involved with bicycles. When I saw that, I was like, oh, I gotta work here. And I had no knowledge of who he was or what what type of. I knew they build track bikes, but I had no idea of NJS or anything like that. But it was just like, this is it. But I every day off, every week, I'd go there and just say, hey, And first, I brought like a resume. There's like a proper way to write a Japanese resume. So I had, my family help me with that. And then I brought it in, and he's like, oh, we got, we don't really need any extra help. And I'm like, at first, I knew like, he's not going to be like, okay, yeah, I'll hire you. It was just like, I'll just kind of put the resume, see how it goes. And he was really cool about it. But after that, it was like every week I'd go, and then I'd like bring like coffee, like you get at, like at the corner store. So I bring them coffee, and it gets to the point where it's like, oh, it's James again, like they get used to you, and you start talking things about, start talking about things like family and stuff, and you start kind of getting a connection. And then I think it was like 6 months when I first went into that shop, and then I go in to bring a new resume, which had the only thing I could like pretty much add besides, yeah, I work hard, but it was like I had um, a flammable gas like safety license. And to get that, you go kind of outside of Tokyo for like 2 days. You do like a written exam and a physical test, and you get that safety license. So I'm like, what, maybe, I didn't, I didn't know, if it would be a great thing, but I figured I gotta get something, Right. So I got that flammable gas safety license because you use it to build bikes. So um, I got that, and I added that to my resume. And then when I went in, um, I showed it to him. Well, my mentor now, let's call it. So he looked at it. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, James, we don't need any more extra people. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I just got the license. I just wanted to show you. And he's like, okay, okay. And then so a buddy of mine comes in, and he's like, hey James, you came to Japan because you like cycling. You should work here. And he has a big voice. And in my head, I'm thinking, that's what I'm trying to do. You know, what do you think I'm doing here? You know, and uh, Tanabe-san, my mentor, he heard it, and he's like, James, come here. He's like, you should really come to Japan because you like bikes. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I'll think about it. And then after that, like a couple of days, he gave me a call, and I helped out. You know, I was able to help out there for 2 days a week, and I was doing that and working at the used bike shop. And then I found this place, and I still help there 2 days a week now. Yeah, I go there 2 days a week just to help because they're pretty busy with a bunch of catering orders. So I do paint. I just pretty much help everything in the shop, even like little things because such a small shop. Like, oh yeah, we gotta. Oh, the AC is broken. Let's take it down. You're doing handyman work and stuff like that. You're painting outside of the shop. It's small stuff like that. But yeah, I love it there. So right now, yes. So I have a step through frame that is basically designed by me. Like I did all the CAD on that, and then I have a company in Taiwan make the frame, and then I make the forks, the front forks here. That's why you see a bunch of these forks here. Like a Taiwan made fork, you'll see the bend is different in that fork. Like this one is a very sharp, like boom, yeah, and it's very straight in this section. But to keep the bend and kind of have it kind of really slowly is awesome. But a lot of times you see some frames that are bent really smooth, but the bend kind of goes straight, and then the curve is very sharp. Right. But it's very cool to have it more like kind of like a Nike swoosh. But yeah, I make the forks here because um, if you look at a mass production frame, the fork curve is not as great, and I wanted the silhouette of like a really expensive bike, but I wanted to at least bring the cost down because frames now are getting expensive. Like yeah, it's kind of like a semi kind of handmade custom bike, but um, a price that's more affordable than what you can normally get from a cheaper Taiwan made frame, um, and like the quality is going to be better. And I wanted to keep it simple. Like the old like Surly's back in the day were like, I remember them being like $500, and they were simple. They're just like not extravagant. They're just like simple rim brake bikes, and they work. They're durable, fun to put together. Um, so I wanted to do something like that, and the whole step through was um, basically my wife. She carries my son Eli on the back, and I wanted like something kind of like a Japanese mamachari. So I was like, oh, that'd be cool because she puts the child seat on the back and she uses it pretty much every day with the basket on the front. And I'm thinking like, I should do something like that. And then if it'd fit like 26-inch tires, like old mountain bike tires, that'd be pretty cool too. And you don't, you can use it as like a kind of daily, kind of like a family kind of bike and still have like a cool bike that you can customize, put together. Um, um, but yeah, that was the whole thing. And I wanted to kind of like mix, like, I think it's also from my background as well. Like I wanted to mix like the Japanese kind of culture with like the mamachari, and also with like 90s, like mountain bike. A person is making something. So that person is always inside of that object. So it also has to do a lot with like culture. So if you look at Japanese cars, they're like very Japanese. They have this design and kind of design aspect to them. And American cars, they have like this design aspect to them. Um, so I think it's great if you kind of understand a lot of multiple cultures, you can kind of create something really unique. And I wanted to do something unique as well. Like, I trying to start like a business as well. You're always like looking at things, you're trying to get ideas, but you get to this point where it's like you really want to stay true to yourself. So you just kind of you know veer towards what you really understand, and certain cultures and certain things, certain designs. That was a whole kind of aspect of starting the step through kind of mamachari style. The mamachari that I'm making, I do like pre-orders for that, and I'll do um, pre-orders. So I've only done I just did the first one, so I'm thinking of maybe doing another one like this winter, maybe 2 times a year or something like that. Um, so yeah, basically my shop. I mean, it's a super small shop, but I do everything from like flat repairs to full on custom frames. So if you want like some custom stuff added to your frame, I do stuff like that. Frame repairs. I mean, I got a few frames hanging up here that need to get repaired. Um, but yeah, I pretty much just wanted a bike shop where I don't know, like I like before getting into bikes, I was like also into cars. So I love like shops that, that like do body work and paint and pretty much like it doesn't really matter like some shops are like European specific, Volkswagen, Volkswagen, BMW only, or like certain the Honda only. Like I like shops that'll just pretty much work on anything. You want to chop the roof? Yeah, we'll chop the roof or something. You know what I mean? They'll slab it down. So stuff like that. I really like. So with bikes, it's kind of like I notice like you don't really see that too much in the bike industry. It's more of kind of like bring it in and we'll replace some parts. Um, and I was like more of like, oh man, let's remove the chain stays and make room for wider tires. Let's build a front fork and then convert like a '90s road bike into a gravel bike. That was um, stuff that I like to do. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much do anything. If it's a bike, I'll work on it. Um, but yeah, I just the main thing is like I wanted to be a shop where you go in and if you needed something done, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah. Also, I'm located in like East Tokyo, so it's away from a lot of the other like popular bike shops. When I first found this place, I was telling friends like, that I'm moving over here, moving or opening up a shop over here. Everybody's like, "Why are you moving over there? There's no bike shops over there." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the point. Like that's the point. That's why I'm over here." But pretty much, yeah. I try to stay unique and stay true to me and kind of do something that most other shops aren't doing. Yeah, Instagram is James, JamesDion. And then my website is www.jdcycletech.com. But I do mostly focus on my Instagram. And also you can email me. My email's on my website or Instagram.
Thanks again, James. You're a legend.